students, in the last lecture we just started the colligative properties and iota, that is the Van Ta factor, and abnormal colligative properties. Okay, what is the definition of a colligative properties? The properties of a dilute solution which depend upon the number of solute particles irrespective of the nature of the solute. Only those properties which depend upon the number of solute particles, which depend upon the number of particles of a solute, known as a colligative properties. Okay, now here suppose if the solute may undergo ionization, that is the dissociation or association, in that case what happens? Number of solute particles changes. When the number of solute particle changes, the colligative properties also changes, because the colligative properties are those properties which are directly related with the number of solute particles. Okay, if the number of solute particles changes, according to which the colligative property changes, according to which the molar mass also changes. Here the colligative property directly proportional to number of solute particles, and whereas inversely proportional to molar mass of the solute. Okay, now in the last class already I started the I explained the Van Ta factor, that is the iota. It is a ratio between the experimental value of a colligative property divided by the theoretical value of a colligative property. Otherwise, in terms of, if you want to express the iota in terms of molar mass, because the colligative property molar mass inversely proportional, so that's why in the numerator I am writing the theoretical molar mass of a substance divided by experimental molar mass of a substance. Otherwise, theoretical molar mass of a substance is nothing but normal molar mass, whereas experimental molar mass is a abnormal molar mass. This abnormal molar mass must be given in the experiment. Okay, and normal molar mass we can find with the help of the molecular formula. Suppose you see case 1, when the solute undergoing the dissociation or ionization, then what about the number of solute particles increases? Best example, NaCl. When sodium chloride dissolved in water, how it dissociated? As a sodium ion and a chloride ion. Here the number of solute particles, what happens? Increasing. Just now I told you colligative properties directly proportional to number of particles and also inversely proportional to molar mass. So what is the actual normal molar mass of a sodium chloride? 58.5, because sodium atomic mass 23 and chlorine will be the 35.5, total 58.5. But when NaCl dissolved in the water due to dissociation or ionization, the sodium chloride possesses abnormal molar mass which is less than the 58.5, because as the number of particles increases, the molar mass has to decrease, because inversely proportional. So here the expected molar mass of a NaCl should be 58.5, but actual molar mass of NaCl, that is experimental, that is the abnormal molar mass, will be less than the 58.5. During the dissociation of a compound, the abnormal molar mass will be less than the normal molar mass, and the limitations here, the molar mass, normal molar mass divided by iota. Let's suppose if 100% ionization occurs, that means the alpha value equal to 1. In case of a NaCl, number of particles will be 2 in the solution, that means iota is also 2. When iota value 2, what is the normal molar mass of a NaCl? That will be the 58.5 divided by 2. This is 100% if it is undergoing dissociation, which is less than or equal to abnormal molar mass. Molar mass abnormal, that means NaCl molar mass, which is less than the normal molar mass. What is the normal molar mass? Actually 58.5. Are you getting my point? The finally what I concluded here is, during the ionization or dissociation of a solute, its molar mass will be decreases than the expected molar mass. Expected molar mass must be 58.5, but the abnormal molar mass, that is the actual molar mass, will be less than the 58.5 due to dissociation. Okay, now in the similar manner, case 2, if the solute undergoing the association. When solute undergoing association, like in the previous lecture I explained the acetic acid or benzoic acid present in the non-polar solvent like benzene undergoing association through intermolecular hydrogen bonding, according to which number of particles decreases. When the number of particles decreases, the molar mass will increases. This is called abnormal molar mass. When the number of solute particle changes, then the molar mass changes. Such molar mass is known as what? Abnormal molar mass. Abnormal molar mass, and the such colligative properties are known as abnormal colligative properties. Okay. Now here, let's suppose example I am taking acetic acid. Do you know what is the molar mass of acetic acid? Normal molar mass, expected molar mass 60. Yes or no? But if you see in experiment, in the solvent benzene, that is a non-polar solvent, the molar mass will be expected greater than 60, above 60. Because in the association, number of particles just now I told you decreases, so that's why the molar mass will be increases. Actual molar mass 60, but the actual molar mass, expected molar mass will be 60, but actual, that means experimental or abnormal, will be greater than the 60. Here during the association, you see the normal molar mass will be less than the abnormal molar mass, will be less than or equal to the normal molar mass upon iota. Now let's suppose if 100% acetic acid 100% association occurs. Let's suppose, assume when 100% association occurs, then iota will be equal to 1/2 dimerization. Association in the sense dimerization. Okay. Now if the iota value will be 0.5, then what is the normal molecular weight of acetic acid? 60, which is less than the, if you see what will be the abnormal molar mass, that will be given in the question. Okay, and which is less than or equal to, what is the normal molar mass of acetic acid? 60 divided by iota value 0.5. That means overall this value become how much? 120. That means the molar mass will be greater than 60 or less than 120. Less than 120. Okay. Now in this today's lecture, the first colligative property, there are how many types of colligative properties? 4 types of colligative properties. What are those? Number 1, relative lowering of vapor pressure of a solution. Number 2, elevation in the boiling point, that is called delta TB. Number 3, depression in the freezing point, that is called delta TF. And number 4, osmotic pressure. Osmotic pressure. So these are the total 4 colligative properties which we have to discuss. Okay. Now already in the Raoult's law of a non-volatile solute in a volatile solvent, we discuss in the Raoult's law topic. Okay. Again one more time we are repeating here. What is the relative lowering of vapor pressure of a solution? It is a ratio between the lowering of vapor pressure of a solution to that of the vapor pressure of a pure solvent. That means the lowering of vapor pressure of a solution nothing but the P0 minus Ps. P0 minus Ps divided by the vapor pressure of a pure solvent, that is the P0. So this is the ratio between the P0 minus Ps divided by P0 is known as RLVP, relative lowering of vapor pressure. Yes or no? Once again I am writing, what is the RLVP? This is nothing but P0 minus Ps upon P0. P0 minus Ps is called lowering of vapor pressure divided by vapor pressure of a pure solvent. Lowering of vapor pressure is nothing but delta P divided by vapor pressure of a pure solvent will be the P0. Okay. Now we know from Raoult's law. What is the statement of Raoult's law? When a non-volatile solute is added to a volatile solvent, then the relative lowering of vapor pressure of a dilute solution containing a non-volatile solute will be equal to the mole fraction of a non-volatile solute. This is the statement of Raoult's law. Okay. Now the RLVP, that will be the P0 minus Ps by P0, will be equal to mole fraction of the solute. How to define the mole fraction? Given number of moles upon total number of moles. So given number of moles of a solute, whole divided by total number of moles of a solute and solvent. Okay. Now what I am doing here, I am interchanging the numerator denominator and subtracting the -1 from both sides. Otherwise add -1 on both sides. After simplification, you will get a final formula which is nothing but P0 minus PS by PS will be equal to number of moles of a solute upon number of moles of a solvent. This is very important. So in the denominator you see P0 minus PS by P0 PS. Remember, this is P0 minus PS by PS. It is not RLVP. This is not RLVP. What is RLVP? P0 minus PS by P0 is called RLVP. Remember, P0 minus PS by P0 is called RLVP, but P0 minus PS by PS is not RLVP. Remember. Okay. Now here P0 minus PS by PS will be equal to number of moles of a solute upon number of moles of a solvent. Number of moles of a solute given mass of a solute upon molar mass of a solute divided by number of moles of a solvent given mass of a solvent upon molar mass of a solvent. So molar mass of a solvent will be goes to the numerator and weight of a solvent in the denominator. Okay. So P0 minus PS by P0 will be equal to, we know molality, it is the number of moles of a solute that is present in the 1 kg weight of a solvent, otherwise 1000 grams of a solvent. So weight of a solute divided by molecular weight of a solute, it is a number of moles of a solute. Okay. If you multiply with 1000 and divide with 1000, okay, then you will get the, here up to this expression you see, this will be the molality. This will be what? Molality. Multiplied with 1000 and divide with 1000. Okay. So here you see weight of solute divided by gram molecular weight of a solute, okay, into 1000 divided by weight of a solvent up to this molality, and the remaining part will be molecular weight of a solvent divided by 1000. So in case of, in the question, if the molality is asking, then we can use this expression. What is the formula? P0 minus PS by PS will be equal to molality multiplied by mole fraction of a solvent whole divided by 1000. Generally in aqueous solution, what will be the solvent? Solvent will be the water. What is the molar mass of a water? That will be the 18. The molar mass of a water is 18. Okay. Note, if the solute undergoing dissociation or association, then we have to consider the iota, that is the Van 't Hoff factor. Yes or no? So the Van 't Hoff factor will be included with number of moles of solute only. Number of moles of solute only. That's why iota into number of moles of solute divided by number of moles of solute plus number of moles of solvent. Remember, here we are not multiplying the iota with number of moles of solvent. We are multiplying the iota, that is the Van 't Hoff factor, with only number of moles of solute, because solute only undergoes ionization or dissociation. Yes or no? Now this will be the RLVP. P0 minus PS by P0 will be equal to what? RLVP. Okay. Now if you written in the denominator P0 minus PS by PS, that means here P0 minus PS by PS, this is also similar. So instead of here number of moles of solute, we have to multiply with iota. Yes or no? Now there is a question number 74 regarding the vapor pressure. Okay, 0.1 molar solution of a K4FeCN taken 6 is prepared at 300 Kelvin. Then its density will be 1.2 gram per ml. If the solute is 50% dissociated, calculate the delta P. What is the delta P? Lowering of vapor pressure. If the vapor pressure of a pure water is given 25 mm of Hg, what is the atomic weight of a potassium? 39, and iron will be 56. Do you know what is the atomic weight of carbon? That will be 12, and nitrogen, that will be 14. Okay. First of all, what I am trying to write here, I have to find the iota, that is the Van 't Hoff factor, because it is a ionic substance. When ionic substance dissolve in water, how it dissociated? As a cation and anion. So in the last class I explained this is a complex compound. In the complex compound, the square bracket, which is a complex ion, this complex ion will be treated as a single ion, single species. Okay. So there are total 4 potassium ions will be present, and one square bracket ion, that is a complex ion, will be present in the solution. Yes or no? So total how many particles are present here? Number of particles total 4 plus 1, 5 particles are present. Okay. Now what is the alpha value given? 50%. 50% in the sense how much? Alpha value 0.5. So in the last class I explained the relation between the Vanta factor and degree of ionization. Iota is equal to 1 plus alpha into n minus 1. Yes or no? Iota I is equal to 1 plus alpha into n minus 1. So iota is equal to 1 plus alpha value 0.5. Number of particles total 5. 5 minus 1 means 4. 4 into 0.5 2. 2 plus 1 will be the 3. So iota value 3. Okay. Now one more important thing. What will be the molecular weight of K4FeCN taken 6 times? So the molecular weight of K4FeCN taken 6, which will be 368. How to calculate the molecular weight? Sum of the atomic weights. Potassium atomic weight 39, iron atomic weight 56, each carbon atomic weight 12, into 6 carbons are there, 12 into 6, plus each nitrogen will be 14. There are 6 nitrogen, 14 into 6. Put together you will get the 368. First of all, here molarity given. Now in the RLVP or P naught minus PS by PS, there is a molality. There is a term what? Molality. Once we know the molality, we know the molar mass of a solvent 18. So we know the P naught value. So we can find the PS. After getting the PS, P naught minus PS will be the LVP. Okay. So that's why I am trying to calculating the molality. How to calculate the molality from the molarity and the density of a solution? Molality is equal to 1000 multiplied by the molarity whole divided by the 1000 into density minus m into GMW. Yes or no? We know in the concentration terms, molality, normality, molality, this relation we know. Okay. So this is a very important relation between molality and molarity. 1000 into, what is the molarity given here in the question? 0.1 whole divided by 1000 into, what is the density of the solution given? 1.2 minus of, what is the molarity? 0.1. What is the molecular weight? 368. Okay. After simplification, finally you will get the molality value, which is nothing but the 0.0859. This is nothing but moles per kg. Okay. Now what is the formula here? P naught minus PS by PS. Remember, in the denominator I am taking the PS. Okay. Which is equal to the iota into weight of solute. Otherwise simply we can use molality. Directly we can use the formula molality into molecular weight of a solvent whole divided by 1000. Why I am taking the iota value? Because the solute is a ionic species which is undergoing ionization. Yes or no? Now here P naught minus PS by PS will be equal to, what is the iota value here? 3 into, what will be the molality? 0.0859. What is the molecular weight of solvent water? 18 whole divided by 1000. Okay. After simplification, P naught minus PS by PS, which is equal to 0.00464. Okay. Now here P naught upon PS minus of PS by PS, that is equal to 1. So bring the 1 to the right hand side. So you will get 1.00464. Yes or no? Now what I am doing here, I am interchanging the numerator denominator. So PS upon P naught is equal to 1 upon 1.00464. Okay. From here I am subtracting, I am multiplying with minus 1 and then adding plus 1. So 1 minus PS upon P naught will be equal to 1 minus 1 upon 1.00464. If you see the LCM P naught, so P naught minus PS, P naught minus PS upon what? P naught, which is equal to the 1 minus, that means LCM 1.00464 minus 1 divided by 1.00464. Yes or no? This value 0.0046, 0.0046. Yes or no? Now here P naught minus PS will be equal to cross multiplication P naught into 0.0046. P naught value in the question it is given how much? 25 mm. 25 mm. 25 mm. Yes or no? So 25 mm into 0.0046. 0.0046. So P naught minus PS, that will be nothing but LVP, nothing but delta P, which is equal to 0.1154 mm of Hg. This is the lowering of vapor pressure. Lowering of what? Vapor pressure. Okay. Now question number 75. The vapor pressure of a solution of a sparingly soluble salt XCl3 was 17.2 mm of Hg at 27 degrees. If the vapor pressure of a pure water will be 17.25 mm of Hg at the 300 Kelvin, find the solubility of the sparingly soluble salt XCl3 in moles per liter. First of all, how to dissociate the given salt as a cation X plus 3 and 3Cl minus anion. Okay. Now here alpha value not given, so I am assuming 100% ionization, so that's why alpha is I am taking 1. So number of particles here 1 plus 3, that will be 4. From here iota is equal to 1 plus alpha into n minus 1. So 1 plus alpha value 1, n minus 1, 4 minus 1, 3, 3 plus 1, again you will get the 4 iota value. Let solubility of XCl3, let's suppose I am assuming S moles per liter. S, that is the solubility moles per liter. Okay. Now here what is the relation between the molality and P naught minus PS upon PS? That will be P naught minus PS upon PS will be equal to, just now I told you, iota into molality into molecular weight of a solvent whole divided by 1000. Okay. Now here density of a solution is not given, so that's why what we are considering solubility I am considering as a moles per kg or moles per liter. Okay. So that's why instead of molarity I am using here molality for a dilute solution. Okay. P naught value given as a 17.25 and PS value given as a 17.20. Here the P naught value given as a 17.25 and PS value 17.20 divided by 17.20, that will be the PS, will be equal to iota value 4 into solubility I am taking S. Molecular weight of water will be solvent 18 whole divided by 1000. Yes or no? So from here shall I find the solubility? What will be the solubility here? S will be equal to 4.04 into 10 raised to minus 2. Yes or no? So this is the solubility of a sparingly soluble salt. Okay. Now question number 76. A very dilute saturated solution of a sparingly soluble salt A3B4. What is the salt here? A3B4. How the sparingly soluble salt will dissociate it? As a cation and anion. Okay. 3 cations and 4 anions. So number of particles here 3 plus 4 7 So iota will be equal to 1 plus alpha times of n minus 1. So 1 plus alpha value I am taking 1. So n minus 1, 7 minus 1, 6, 6 plus 1, again iota value 7. Yes or no? After getting the iota Vanta factor, now the solubility in the previous case we are considering S, moles per liter, otherwise we can consider as a moles per kilogram. Yes or no? Molality, sometimes we can say molarity also, because density is not given. So again the formula P naught minus Ps by Ps will be equal to iota into molality multiplied by the molecular weight of a solvent whole divided by 1000. Yes or no? So what is the P naught value given here? P naught value given 20.0126. And what is the PS value given here? 20 mm. So P naught value 20.0126 minus of PS value 20 whole divided by the PS value 20 equal to, what is the iota value? 7. So molality, solubility I am taking S, and what is the molecular weight of solvent? Water 18 whole divided by 1000. Yes or no? After getting simplification, the solubility of a sparingly soluble salt will be equal to 0.0049 or approximately 0.005. Yes or no? But the question is moles per liter or moles per kg, because we are using here molality concept here. Okay, now here, but in the question, what is the solubility product constant? That will be the KSP. Okay, do you know, for a AX BY type of a electrolyte, the KSP value equal to x to the power x, y to the power y, s to the power x plus y, where S is the solubility, where KSP is the solubility product constant. Okay, now what is the given salt here? A3B4. What is the given salt here? A3B4. For such salt, what is the solubility product constant? 3 to the power 3, 4 to the power 4, S to the power 3 plus 4. That means the KSP value equal to 3 cube, nothing but the 27, and what will be the 4 to the power of 4? 256, and S to the power what? 7. S to the power what? 7. Okay, so here you will get 27 multiplied by the 256, 6912. Okay, and what will be the S value? Shall I take this is 5 into 10 raised to minus 3. Okay, 5 into 10 raised to minus 3 whole to the power 7. Okay, final answer will be the 5.4 into 10 raised to minus 13. 5.4 into 10 raised to minus 13. Okay, now here one important experimental method regarding the calculation of a RLVP. Now, how to determine experimentally relative lowering of vapor pressure of a solution? This is known as a Ostwald-Walker method. Ostwald-Walker method. Okay. Now, in this method, what happens when a dry air is sent into, first of all, solution bulbs. After that, it is sent into the solvent bulb, and finally sent into the anhydrous calcium chloride containing U tube. Yes or no? Now here, what is the vapor pressure of a solution? In a solution bulb, what will be the vapor pressure? PS. Okay, and what is the vapor pressure in the solvent bulb? Vapor pressure of a solvent bulb will be P naught. Yes or no? And we know P naught is always greater than the PS. Yes or no? Otherwise PS is always less than the P naught. Now what is the P naught value? Vapor pressure of a pure solvent. What is the PS value? Vapor pressure of a solution. Okay. Now it is a dynamic method in which it is useful to measure the relative lowering of vapor pressure. Okay. What is the relative lowering of vapor pressure? P naught minus Ps by P naught. Remember, in the denominator P naught is there, that's why we are using the word RLVP. If in the denominator instead of P naught, if the Ps is there, that is not considered RLVP. RLVP nothing but P naught minus Ps upon P naught only. Okay. Now, here the basic concept here, when a dry air is allowed to pass through any liquid or solution, then the dry air catches some vapor on the surface of a liquid or solution, due to which the weight of a liquid or a solution decreases. Once again I am repeating, when a dry air is sent into any liquid or a solution, then the dry air catches some vapor on the surface of the liquid or solution, due to which the weight of a liquid or a solution decreases. The loss in the weight of a solution or a solvent is directly proportional to the vapor pressure. How much of vapor pressure decreases, that will be the loss of the weight in the solution or a solvent. Yes or no? That is the key concept. Okay. Now, first of all, what we have to do in this method, the dry air first of all sent into which solution? First solution bulbs sent into the solution bulb. In a solution bulb, what happens? In a suitable solvent, a solute is dissolved and it is made into a homogeneous mixture. Okay. On the surface of a solution, the vapor will be present. When the dry air sent into the solution bulb, the dry air catches the vapor on the surface of a solution bulb. When the dry air catches the vapor on the surface of a solution bulb and it is sent into the next another solvent bulb, during this phenomena, the dry air which is saturated with the vapor of the solution bulb, due to which the vapor pressure, the vapor in the bulbs decreases, because this vapor was captured by whom? Dry air, due to which the weight of the solution bulb, what happens? Decreases. How much of the weight of a solution bulb decreases? That is indirectly proportional to the vapor pressure of the solution. Okay. Now, already the dry air which is sent into the solution bulb, now it is allowed to pass through the solvent bulb. Are you getting my point? And finally, the air is sent into the anhydrous U-shaped tube which containing the calcium chloride. Calcium chloride is a drying agent. Which can absorb the moisture. Now here generally we are considering the solvent as a water. That is the aqueous medium. Okay. Now, first of all, dry air sent into the solution bulb, and then after that solvent bulb, and finally it is sent into a drying agent, that is the anhydrous calcium chloride, which has a tendency to absorb the moisture. Okay. So before and after the experiment, we have to determine the weight of the solvent bulb, solution bulb, and also U tube. Okay, because before experiment the weight of a solution bulb, after experiment the weight of a solution bulb definitely changes, because after experiment some of the vapor in the solution bulb will be replaced by the dry air. Yes or no? Due to which the weight of a solution bulb after experiment decreases. Similarly, the weight of a solvent bulb is also decreases after experiment. Okay. Now, there is a loss in the weight of the solution bulb, and also there is a loss in the weight of a solvent bulb. And the loss in the weight of a solution bulb and solvent bulb will be equal to the gain in the weight of U tube. Because how much of the water vapor present in the solution bulb and solvent bulb, because we are considering the solvent water, the vapor was abstracted or absorbed by the anhydrous calcium chloride, due to which the weight of a U-shaped tube will be, what happens? Increases, because the loss in the weight of a solution bulb plus loss in the weight of a solvent bulb will be equal to the gain in the weight of a U tube. Okay. Now, here the loss in the weight of a solution bulb is directly proportional to vapor pressure of the solution, because in the first bulb, that is a solution bulb, only solution is present. That's why how much of the weight will decreases in the solution bulb is directly proportional to the vapor pressure of the solution. Yes or no? And the next one, the weight loss in the solvent bulb is proportional to P naught minus Ps. This is very, very important. Okay, P naught minus Ps, it is the weight loss in the solvent bulb. Okay, I will explain why I am writing here P naught minus Ps. After that, after crossing the dry air from the solution bulb and solvent bulb, now the dry air sent into what? Anhydrous calcium chloride. During the passing of dry air, that means dry air along with moisture through the anhydrous calcium chloride, it only abstracts the water vapor, due to which its weight, what happens, increases. Increase in the weight of a U tube will be equal to the sum of the loss in the weight of a solution bulb and solvent bulb. Yes, what is the weight loss in the solution bulb? X, and weight loss in the solvent bulb? Y. So weight gain in the U tube will be X plus Y. Okay, similarly on the right hand side also, what I am trying to doing, so loss in the vapor pressure in the solution bulb, Ps, plus loss in the vapor pressure in the solvent bulb, P naught minus Ps, total will be the gain in the vapor pressure, that will be the P naught, that is the total vapor pressure of a pure solvent that was absorbed by the anhydrous calcium chloride, because it is a drying agent which has a tendency to absorb the water vapor. Are you getting my point? Now here now I am taking the ratio. What is the ratio I am taking? I am taking the ratio of a solvent loss in the weight of a solvent bulb divided by gain in the weight of a U tube. What is the loss in the weight of a solvent bulb? That will be nothing but the P naught minus Ps. And what is the gain in the weight of a U tube bulb? That will be proportional to P naught. So finally P naught minus Ps, that is the loss in the weight of a solvent bulb divided by gain in the weight of a U tube, will be equal to P naught minus Ps upon P naught. Yes or no? So this is indirectly nothing but relative lowering of vapor pressure, that is called RLVP. So this is a experimental determination of relative lowering of vapor pressure of a solution. Okay. Now I am writing one more formula, P naught minus Ps. In terms of Ps I am writing in the denominator. So number of moles of a solute upon number of moles of a solvent. So I am introducing the iota factor, because in case of a solute undergoing dissociation or association, so iota value not equal to unity. That's why we are introducing the iota, that is the Vanta factor for abnormal colligative property. Now you see, suppose I am taking one solution bulb or solvent bulb, as you wish. What I am doing here, I am trying to pass the dry air in the solution bulb or solvent bulb. Let's suppose. Now initially what is the pressure of the dry air? P1. When it is passing through the solution, after passing through the solution, then the pressure will be P2. Now the two options are there. If P1 is greater than P2 or P2 is greater than P1. Let's suppose we are assuming P2 is more than P1. That means after passing the solution or solvent, the dry air pressure will be P2, which is greater than the initial pressure. What is the meaning of this one? That means the dry air, it capture some vapor on the surface of the liquid or solution, due to which its vapor pressure increases after passing through the solution. That means when the dry air catches the vapor on the surface of a solution, obviously the weight will be decreases in the bulb. The solution or solvent, whatever it may be, decreases. The decrease in the weight of a bulb will be proportional to the difference in the P1 and P2. We know P2 will be more than the P1. That's why I am writing P2 minus P1. Otherwise, if the initial vapor pressure P1, after passing through the solution or solvent, if it is P2, but the condition now what I am using here, P1 greater than P2. That means after entering into the solution or solvent, some of the vapor will be dropped in the solution or solvent. Okay, that means some more vapor will be present here, some extra vapor will be present here, because here the P2, the vapor pressure of P2 will be, that means the vapor pressure P2 will be lower than the P1. That means the P1 vapor pressure is very high. That's why vapor pressure increases in the solution. When the vapor pressure increases in the solution, that means vapor increases, that's why the weight of the bulb increases. When the weight of a bulb increases, the gain in the weight of a bulb, which is nothing but the proportional to the P1 minus P2. Yes or no? There are two options. The weight of a bulb may decrease, the weight of a bulb may increase. Are you getting my point? Now here you see, first of all, when dry air is passing through the solution bulb, from the solution bulb, how much of vapor pressure captured by the dry air? PS. How much of vapor pressure captured by the dry air? PS. Are you getting my point? Now this is the PS. Okay. Now after passing the dry air along with the vapor of a solution now into the solvent bulb, what will be the vapor pressure of a solvent bulb? P0. Now tell me, out of PS and P0, which will be higher value? Obviously P0. When the dry air along with the vapor, when it is passed from the solution bulb to the solvent bulb and from solvent to the U-tube, what happens? There is a further decrease in the weight of the solvent bulb. The decrease in the weight of a solvent bulb, what I can consider here? P0 minus PS, because P0 value will be higher and PS value will be lower. Are you getting my point? That means from here some extra amount of vapor is also taken outside. That's why the P0 value increases, so PS value will be decreased. Okay, so the difference between P0 minus and PS, that will be the loss in the weight of the solvent bulb. Loss in the weight of the solvent bulb. Yes or no? Now this is the concept of the Ostwald-Walker method during the experimental determination of a relative lowering of vapor pressure. Okay. Now here question number 77. Dry air was passed through a solution of 5 grams of a solute in 80 grams of a water. Then it is passed through the pure water. Loss in the weight of a solution was 2.5 grams and loss in the weight of a pure water was 0.04 grams. Then find the molecular weight of the solute. Okay. First of all, P0 minus PS upon PS. What is the P0 minus PS? Nothing but the loss in the weight of solvent bulb. Yes or no? Loss in the weight of solvent or solvent bulb divided by PS is nothing but loss in the weight of the solution bulb. Loss in the weight of solution bulb. Yes or no? Now what is the loss in the weight of a solvent? Solvent is water. How much of loss in the weight of a pure water? That will be 0.04 grams. Okay. And what is the loss in the weight of a solution bulb? That will be the 2.5 grams. 2.5 grams. Okay. Now this is the P0 minus PS upon PS. Okay. Now here we know P0 minus PS upon PS will be equal to weight of a solute divided by molecular weight of a solute multiplied by molecular weight of a solvent whole divided by the weight of the solvent. Yes or no? This is the number of moles of a solute divided by number of moles of a solvent. So this value will be equal to 16 into 10 raised to minus 3. 16 into 10 raised to minus 3. What is the weight of a solute? 5 grams of a, how much of weight of a solute here? 5 grams of a solute. What is the molecular weight of a solute? That is to be calculated into, what is the molecular weight of solvent water? 18. Okay. How many grams of water is present here? How many grams of water is present here? 80 grams. Okay. From here, simplification, you will get the molar mass of a solute. The molar mass of a solute will be equal to 70.31 gram per mole. So this is a very important application regarding the RLVP. What is the application of RLVP? It is nothing but colligative property. It is useful to calculate the molar mass of a non-volatile solute which is present in the given solution. Okay. Now, question number 78. Okay, if same volume of solution of different solute is used, then what is the order of the vapor pressure, moles of solute and molar mass of solute? Now in the diagram you see here dry air first of all sent into the first bulb of solution. Now what is the in the bulb A loss in the solution weight, 1 gram loss, and then after sending into the second bulb B, from B bulb to C bulb, and finally sent into the anhydrous calcium chloride. So subsequently if you see in the first bulb 1 gram of a weight loss, but in the second bulb 0.5 grams of weight gained, and what will be the weight loss in the C bulb? 1 gram of. Okay, are you getting my point? Now here first of all, now from the first bulb to the second bulb, how much of pressure, what is the vapor pressure? Let's suppose this is the PA, which is directly, and initially dry air there will be 0. Let's suppose dry air, let's suppose this is the vapor pressure, let's suppose this will be the 0. Okay, from after passing through the solution A, the vapor pressure PA, after passing through the solution B, the vapor pressure B, after passing the solution B, vapor pressure B. Okay, and finally after passing the solution C, vapor pressure will be C. Now you see in the first bulb weight loss or gain? Weight loss in the sense the vapor pressure of PA will be greater than 0. So the difference PA minus 0, that is the PA, is directly proportional to weight loss, that is nothing but 1 gram. Yes or no? Let's suppose this will be the first equation. And come to the second bulb. In the second bulb B, weight gained in the sense out of the PA and PB, if the sum of the vapors of the A will be present in the B solution, that's where the weight of the bulb B increases. That means out of the PA and PB, shall I conclude PA greater than PB? Yes. How much will be difference? Nothing but the weight gain in the bulb B, that is the 0.5 grams. Yes or no? Proportionality. And come to the third bulb, again there is a loss in the 1 gram. That means from the vapor pressure C and B, if you see, so the vapor pressure of C will be more than that of the B. That's why the bulb C weight decreases. So finally what I am writing here, PC minus PB is directly proportional to weight loss, that will be the 1 gram. Okay. After simplification of these three equations, so put the PA value 1 gram in the equation 2. So you will get the PB value proportional to the 0.5 grams. Okay. Once the PB value writing in the equation 3, so you will get the PC value directly proportional to 1 plus 0.5, 1.5 grams. Are you getting my point? Now PA value proportional to 1 gram. Okay. PB value proportional to 0.5 gram and PC value proportional to what? 1.5 gram. So here where the vapor pressure will be more, 1.5 grams. So that means the order of vapor pressure shall write PC greater than PA greater than PA. Sorry, PC greater than PA greater than PB. PB. PC greater than PA greater than PB, because in PC directly proportional to 1.5 grams. Okay, more vapor pressure. Okay, this is the first question, the order of the vapor pressures, that will be the PC greater than PA greater than PB. And next we know as the vapor pressure increases, number of moles of solute. Do you know vapor pressure is inversely proportional to mole fraction of solute, whereas the vapor pressure directly proportional to mole fraction of solvent, because solvent is volatile but solute is non-volatile generally. That's why vapor pressure of a solution is inversely proportional to mole fraction of solute or number of moles of solute. If the vapor pressure increases, number of moles of solute decreases. That's why number of moles of a solute in the solution C will be less as compared to the number of moles of a solute in the A solution, which is less than the number of moles of solute in the B solution. Are you getting my point? Because vapor pressure and number of moles of solute inversely proportional. So this will be the question number 2, moles of solute. Okay. And the third question, what will be the third question? Third question will be the number of moles. Do you know? Number of moles is equal to given mass divided by molar mass. Okay. Suppose given mass is constant for three solutes, then moles and molar mass will be inversely proportional, according to which the number of moles of C will be less. That means its molar mass will be more. So MC greater than MA greater than MB. Yes or no? So this is the third question. That is the molar mass of the solute. Order of the molar mass of the solute. Okay. Question number 79. In this question number 79, dry air was drawn through the bulbs containing a solution of 40 grams of solute in 300 grams of water, then through the bulbs containing the pure water at the same temperature, and finally through a tube in which pumice moistened with strong sulfuric acid. Remember, concentrated sulfuric acid is a good dehydrating agent which can absorb the moisture, which can absorb the water vapor. Okay. The water bulb lost 0.087 grams and the sulfuric acid tube gained 2.036 grams. Then find the molecular weight of the solute. Yes or no? Now first of all, loss in the weight of solvent bulb, isn't it, whole divided by gain in the weight of a U tube. Instead of U tube, here we have sulfuric acid. That's why what I am writing, gain in the weight of concentrated sulfuric acid will be equal to P0 minus Ps upon P0. Yes or no? What will be the loss in the weight of a solvent bulb? In the solvent bulb, 0.087 divided by gain in the weight of sulfuric acid 2.036 is equal to P0 minus Ps upon P0. Yes or no? Now, this P0 minus Ps upon P0 value will be equal to P0 minus Ps upon P0 value, which is equal to 0.0427. Yes or no? Now here 1 by 0.0427 will be equal to, now before doing this, what I am trying to write here, what is the P0 minus Ps upon P0? That will be equal to mole fraction of solute, number of moles of solute upon number of moles of solute plus solvent. N stands for, small n stands for number of moles of solute. Capital N stands for number of moles of solvent. Yes or no? Now here, what will be the P0 minus Ps upon P0 value? That will be equal to 0.0427. Now what I am doing here, I am interchanging the numerator and denominator. Okay, which is equal to P0 upon P0 minus Ps equal to small n plus capital N by small n. So the value of P naught minus Ps upon P naught value reciprocal value, that will be 1 upon 0.0427 is equal to small n plus capital N by small n. Okay. Now what I am doing, I am adding minus 1 on both sides. 1 by 0.0427 minus 1 equal to n plus n upon n minus 1. Yes or no? Now from here, number of moles of solute upon number of moles of solvent value, I am writing directly 0.0427 whole divided by 0.9573. Okay. Now here, what is the value of simplification of n by n value completely, which is equal to 0.0446. Number of moles of a solute, nothing but given mass upon molar mass. What is the mass of a solute here in the question? 40 grams. So 40 grams of a solute divided by, do you know the molar mass of a solute? No, that is to be calculated. Whole divided by number of moles of a solvent. Given mass of a solvent, water mass is given 300 grams. The amount of a water is given 300 grams. Whole divided by, what is the molar mass of a solvent water? 18, which is equal to 0.0446. Okay. From here, after simplification, you will get the molar mass of a solute, that will be equal to 53.81.